I don't really think you understand what Microsoft is doing with the Xbox. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people on the internet understand what they're doing because, well, yeah, we're going to get into all that and more in this episode of Decked Up, a gaming and tech podcast. Stay tuned and roll that intro. Ooh, what's up, everybody? Mekel Kasanova here, host of Decked Up, a gaming and tech podcast. Yes, the background and everything looks different right now. And yeah, my hair is down. Typically, my hair is back, ponytail or top knot or something like that. And you're probably wondering, okay, why do we have this different camera angle? We have the different camera angle for a couple of reasons. One, I kind of hurt my back when I was doing a workout the other day. Pushed real hard. I did a lot. I did like 2 hour straight session. Typically I do, on average 6 hours a day working out. 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours at night before I go to bed. But this time I didn't stretch, so I kind of hurt my back a little bit. So I'm using my standing desk right now and my wireless lavalier mic because sitting kind of hurts my back. And I've been using, oh God, I had to reach over because my back hurts. Been using this right here to, target that part of my body because your boy's in pain. Anyway, all that being said, let's go ahead and just start talking about Xbox, because a lot of people are confused as to what Microsoft's doing. A lot of people are like, well, what's the point of owning an Xbox at this point if you can get your Xbox games everywhere. You can get it on PC. You can play it remotely. Why do you need to buy an Xbox? What's the point? What is Microsoft doing? They're not even trying anymore. You'll hear a lot of that. And there's a whole lot of Phil Spencer negative narrative going around. And, what people tend to forget, and I feel like either people are forgetting or they're just completely not aware of it. But there was a point when the industry absolutely loved Xbox. Like I'm saying, like the industry loved Xbox with the original Xbox. They came to adore it. It was the darling of the 360 era. The Xbox 360 was one of the best selling consoles. Yes, it got eclipsed eventually by the PlayStation 3 when they dropped the price on it and they started putting out better quality games and also games that ran better. But nonetheless, the 360 was the last time that the mainstream media, journalists and such, were really all on board with Xbox. It just completely it was like every time you saw something, it was marketed specifically for the Xbox. And we've been at this point in the year of our Lord 2025, we've been removed from that time of Xbox for, I want to say, roughly 15 years, right? Let's say 15 years has been since Xbox was like that loved. Especially towards the end of the 360 era, where the love for Xbox was kind of going down because they were focusing so heavily on Kinect, which was, that was a fail thing, but it was a thing nonetheless. And then you also had Don Matrix with what he said at E3, I believe it was 2013, when he basically said, just get an Xbox 360 if you don't want all this other stuff, like when they were trying to focus the Xbox One more as a media center hub than it was focusing on gaming. Granted, in this day and age now, people are using their Xboxes, their PlayStations, their Switches and such as media hubs now, but at the time they weren't really, and that comes from when you're seeing too far into the future. You're starting to, you don't have that wherewithal to step back and be like, oh, maybe I need to break this down a little bit for people who don't understand, the vision that I have. And that was kind of one of the issues with Xbox, is they were very futuristic in knowing what, to put out, what the audiences wanted, but they didn't know how to deliver that. The messaging was always really poor, you know? And as someone who used to work for Xbox, Microsoft as a whole too, that is one of the things where I'm like, I've seen where they're going. Like with Game Pass and everything, that was a discussion all the way back in like 2009, 2010 of being able to have an infrastructure where you can download or just stream games, you know. Of course, the technology and the infrastructure of, you know, internet for people every day was not there for that to be a thing. And the subscription model still was not as adopted as it is now. And the, you know, the 2020s where everyone's got Netflix, everyone's got Peacock, Crunchyroll, you know, whatever have you. You know, streaming is the primary platform for a lot of people these days. But that wasn't the case with the Xbox One, right? So I'm taking you down this road, right? We're in the DeLorean, we're going down this road because I got to give you guys context because a lot of people don't seem to have that context or understanding. So with the Xbox One, we already know that was a weaker console than the PlayStation 4. You know, that didn't really help it. And a lot of the games that were exclusive, they just didn't sell as well or do as well. And then I want to say 2 years into the Xbox One's life, like 2015, that's when we really started seeing Microsoft taking more of a step back and we weren't really getting exclusives. Like if you guys remember, the 360 got a lot of exclusives, or original Xbox had a lot of exclusives. There was a lot of support from first party Microsoft game studios, but we didn't really have a lot of that in the Xbox One area. And then, well, even now in the Xbox Series X and S era, we don't really have a lot of that either because a lot of the games that are quote unquote exclusive to Xbox are still going to PC. And a lot of people are, instead of understanding that, hey, that's a great thing because you can play your game how, when, and where you want to, people are taking that as that's not a good thing that they're doing that. That's a bad thing. And it's kind of stupid I don't know. To me, it's stupid. Anyway, getting back to the point. So the media around, I want to say early to mid 2014 into 2015 and onwards, the media, so gaming publications, YouTube, you know, critiquers, they all started to shift away from Xbox as the preferred platform and as something that had a favorable opinion. They had already been slowly doing that from like 2010 onward, but it really like ramped up at that point. So now that that's been happening, a lot of folks are like, oh, I don't want to get an Xbox. So like you couldn't really get the value. And then like, you know, there were games that were promoted and prompted to be something great, like Halo 5. You had the Master Chief Collection that came out at that point too. Master Chief Collection came out with a lot of issues, which now completely full featured. You know, you might end up seeing that on the Switch 2 or Super Switch, as we said on the Season Gaming Bitcast. If you guys haven't checked that out, check it out. I'll leave a link down in the description. I was a guest host on that episode. But basically, you got to a point where, you know, just the exclusives just wasn't quite hidden like that. And then a lot of the games that were multi-platform, that were on the Xbox and on PlayStation, they just ran better on PlayStation than they did on Xbox. And not only did they run better, they looked better. Even though the online servers and connection and capability was better on Xbox, performance and look-wise, games look horrible. Case in point, Tekken 7 looks like utter dog shit on the Xbox. Looks pretty good and crispy on PlayStation. Looks like perfection on PC. So, as you can understand, it just felt like Xbox just wasn't trying anymore. And then, like, Games with Gold, if you guys remember that was something where you got 2 free games a month. They were starting to slowly shift away from that. And then they were trying to get you slowly onto something like Game Pass, which eventually came down the road, which is one of the most successful things in gaming right now, regardless of whoever wants to tell you it's not. But nonetheless, I took you through all that to let you guys know the media soured on Xbox. They started spinning this narrative. The media, YouTubers and such, online game critiquers, people on Twitter at the time, which is now X, right? So the narrative going around was that Xbox is not making an effort with gaming. They're they're going to get out of the gaming race. They're going to close down studios. They're going to do this. If you guys remember, Scalebound was a game that was supposed to come out. That didn't happen, and then eventually that went on to. I mean, it looked like that went on to become Devil May Cry 5 because the protagonist looks like Nero from Devil May Cry 5. But, there's a lot of games that just weren't hitting the narrative, shifted. And so then we got to a point where it's like, all right, what is the point of an Xbox? Especially when they started rolling out Game Pass. Of course, Game Pass prices have been creeping up and up and up and up, which I can't be mad at them because we're in inflation right now. We're in kind of a recession. So when we hit recessions, prices for things go up, especially subscription prices, especially when you get more people. When you've got over 30 million people subscribed to something like Game Pass, you're making some money, right? All right, so let's talk about the hardware, right? We'll talk about the hardware because a lot of people are like, all right, if I can buy a Samsung TV or any of these smart TVs that have Xbox kind of built into it where you can stream the games to it, what is the point of buying an Xbox console? Why should I spend $400 or $500 on the Xbox Series X? Why should I spend $300 on an Xbox Series S, right? Okay. Or if you got something like the MetaQuest, MetaQuest 2, 3, and 3S, now you can, there's an Xbox app on it. So you can just get a controller, Bluetooth it to it, and you can start playing games. You can stream it. What is the point of buying the hardware? Same thing with your phone. If you got Game Pass, I think it's Game Pass Ultimate, you can stream the games. People, again, are going to ask the question, what is the point of it? Well, the point of it, because it's still the most powerful hardware out there with the Series X, with the PlayStation 5 Pro just teetering close enough to it, maybe a couple areas where it's a bit more powerful, but for the most part, the Series X is still the most powerful console out there. Now, when you're looking at it like that, okay, Xbox, and by large in part, Microsoft, what they are doing is you can play Xbox anywhere, but you're going to get the best experience on the hardware. That's what they're doing. You want the best gaming experience from us? If you can play our games, you can play them on PC. You're going to get, that's technically where you're going to get the best experience overall. But you can play it on PC. You can play it on your phone. You can play it on your MetaQuest. You can play it on your TV. You can play it on your tablet. You can play it directly through your laptop. But we want you to also have the option of playing it at home, either in conjunction with or individually. But what people don't understand is, yes, they may have lost the hardware race, which, yeah, they did. We can all admit to that. They lost that towards they still kind of had it in the 360 era. The Xbox One era, they completely lost it, right? Didn't matter if they had the One, the One S, the One X. It didn't really matter. They lost that race. So what they have done is they have given you options of how and where to play their games. Microsoft, and the name's in the title of the company, soft as in software. They are a software company before they're ever a hardware company. Now, to give you guys an example of the business model that Microsoft has gone to with Xbox, this is the same, and honestly, this business model is primarily something that's due to, if you guys remember Satya Nadella, when he came in and became the CEO of Microsoft, a lot of things changed. What happened? We got rid of Windows Phone. Why? Because he's using an iPhone. And a lot of features of Windows Phone and such are now available on Android and iOS. A lot of things scaled back. If you guys remember, there's a time when if you wanted Microsoft Office, right? You want to use Microsoft Office, you could only use that on PC. It wasn't on Mac. I don't know how many of you young folks were around during that time. I'm almost 40, so I was around for that era. And you had to use LibreOffice, and then eventually, because it wasn't an option for Mac, then you had to like start using Pages, Numbers, and Keynote because you couldn't use Office on Mac. And it was a good alternative. It had real high compatibility. There was a point where it wasn't compatibility. Microsoft made it intentional. But not all that being said, it got to a point where you could utilize Office on Mac, but it was very different, very, very limited, and still had compatibility issues between the two platforms. Sorry, I had to cut my fan on. It's getting a little hot over here. We out here in Hawaii. I got my hair down. I should put my hair back, but it is what it is. We'll work with it. Anyway, so then it got to a point where we eventually were able to get Office on Mac that had parity across the board. It was parity with the Windows version, which is great. So now, and then they started introducing, because if you guys remember, with Office, it used to be a single purchase. It was a license. You bought the license. You could either buy a license for Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all the other stuff that comes with Office. And then they started pushing, you really can't do that anymore. They really started pushing the subscription with Office. And what happened when they started pushing the subscription with Office? Then, didn't matter what you used it on. You bought it as a subscription for PC. You could use it on so many PCs and rotate them out. Then it was PC, Mac, and mobile. Now, it's a subscription model. It gives you everything in Office. Use it on your Mac, like I'm using to record the video here. Use it on PC. Use it on Chromebook. Use it on your phone, iOS or Android. Use it on your tablet. You can even use it on your MetaQuest, right? So they made it so it's a subscription model, but you still get full access, but you get the best experience regardless of wherever you play it on or you use it on. But primarily, they want you to use it on PC, right? Because they own what? Windows, Office, they're the standard bearers. So they took that same subscription-minded philosophy and they have applied it to Xbox. Now, is Xbox ever going to go back to what it used to be? Probably not. Am I sad that it's not going to go back to that? A little bit. But you have to understand that is what they are doing. They have shifted it from being focusing on the hardware itself. Xbox as a brand is a service. It's games as a service. Now, you can have people that are going to argue, oh, you don't own these games because a lot of them are digital. But think of it like this. With Game Pass, what is the most brilliant thing that Microsoft has done? They bought Activision Blizzard. I know a lot of people were mad about that. But if PlayStation, if PlayStation did that, you wouldn't hear none of this bullshit of people crying off fake tears, fake outrage, and all this bullshit on social media. If PlayStation did it, people would be like, bravo, brilliant move, PlayStation. They did it. Because there is a bias within the industry and with gamers. There's a bias towards PlayStation. People love the company that is the most anti-consumer. And what's crazy is I'm saying this as someone who is a PlayStation partner. The only person in Hawaii, historically and currently, to ever be a PlayStation partner is your boy here. This Samoan, Hawaiian, Tongan, Dominican, right here. I'm the only one as of right now. And was it January 12th, 2025, only one. Anyways, PlayStation, as you guys know, and this is me just being completely honest, they're not very consumer friendly, right? They got rid of backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 3 because it was too expensive. No, because they're like, why are you still playing the old stuff? Play our new stuff. Digital library, being able to buy stuff, they wanted to take that off of PlayStation 3 so you couldn't go and get anything off the digital storefront. Jim Ryan, well, I think it was Jim Ryan at the time. Guess what? That got shot down and it's still up as of now. But they made it difficult for you to be able to even buy games. You need to get stuff. You got to get a digital code for PSN to go buy stuff off the PlayStation Network. And it also feels like they kind of intentionally made it slower too, so you have a hard time trying to download the games or purchase anything and go through and navigate through it. But anyways, that's a whole another topic for another time. All that being said, though, if this is a company that people just they ride so hard for. The people they will the people call them PlayStation ponies, right? And it's kind of funny. As someone who's almost 40, I'm like, man, I don't have this much stock or invest. I don't own stock or shares in these companies, so I don't care about them to have this type of like die hard loyalty. Because I mean, I'm either gonna pick up, for instance, oh my back, a PlayStation controller, or I'll pick up an Xbox controller or a Switch controller. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to game. I'm someone who wants to game. I don't really care about brand loyalty because these companies, at the end of the day, they're for profit. They don't give two flying fucks about you, the consumer. And people need to understand that. But people don't get that because people want to be in their feelings. This company cares about me. No, they don't care about you. So, all that being said, right? With Microsoft buying all these studios, throwing billions into the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, also acquiring all these other studios and all this other stuff. They did this during the Xbox. Well, the Activision Blizzard acquisition was during the Xbox Series era, but all these other companies and studios that were built and funded and created were done during the Xbox One era. But when this happened, people expected these games to be coming out like right then and there, not realizing the development process. A lot of games are in development for 4 to 5 years before you ever see them. Remember how everyone was getting mad about the dreads on characters all having the Killmonger haircut? Where I'm over here like, well, when that haircut was popular during Black Panther, all these games were probably in development at that point. Now, could they have changed the models? Yeah, they could have changed the models, changed the haircut and everything like that. But that is a very common haircut that you see. Some people like me got twists. Other folks got locks. Different styles. There are way different ways to wear them. But it is something where development takes time and people aren't patient for that. People want to just be like, it needs to be now. Like, which is the thing with gamers. Gamers are historically just impatient people, right? And half the people bitching about games they either don't play them or they don't complete them. They just talk about them and they move on. Anyway, so Microsoft made a lot of big moves, acquiring companies, building whole studios, investing billions into creating new games and experiences, maintaining backwards compatibility and adding additional games every time that they can for backwards compatibility for original Xbox, for 360, improving the experience, especially if you play a lot of these games on the Series S and Series X, giving, boosted frames, better resolution. Some games getting HDR added that are Xbox One games. Case in point being, first party titles like Gears of War Ultimate Edition. They are pro consumer. But you have people who don't understand that because to them, it's not pro consumer. They aren't pro consumer. What makes them pro consumer? I'm trying to tell y'all right now. What is pro consumer? Is allowing you to play your games when and where you want to. You're not limited to a box connected to your TV. You can just attach a controller to your phone, play some games, right? You can do it on your MetaQuest, do it on your laptop, your desktop. Download it to PC and get a better version. But people don't see that because people are blinded by the media and content creator bias against what I like to call the agenda against Xbox. Oh, excuse me. I had to burp at that point. The agenda against Xbox. People don't want to see it. Because a lot of people are treating Xbox the way they treat Sega. They pine for them glory days that we're just not going to have anymore. And also looking at the landscape of gaming in 2024 going into 2025, where we are now in 2025, the landscape of gaming now is fundamentally different than what we had in 2010, 2015, 2005, 2006, 2001. It's a different era of gaming. It's a different generation of gamers. It's a different economic era. So what worked back then isn't going to work now. It's like all the people begging for the Attitude Era back of WWE, not realizing that we got a generation of just straight pussy people who couldn't even deal with it. They see a woman with big titties walking around, they bouncing all over the place. Oh my God, sexism! You know, offended. They're objectifying. So y'all didn't let that go, because if it were to happen, y'all wouldn't even be able to deal with it. So just holding on to what Xbox used to be instead of realizing where they're going to, where they're being pro-consumer. They're giving you options to be able to play your games. Not only the games that you can stream via Game Pass Ultimate with their Xbox streaming service, but also games that you own on your Xbox that, if your Xbox is connected, hopefully via LAN connection, you can still play. You can stream it to your phone, to your tablet. And the fact that Xbox is still going to be making hardware. All the leaks came out. We all have seen the leaks, right? If you haven't, I did a whole video. I think I did a whole podcast on that. Was it last year? I think last year was when the leaks happened. But, I did a whole thing on it. And basically, the all digital Xbox One Series X, we got it. That was in the thing. They were going to make that. And a lot of people were like, why would anyone go all digital? There's some of us that just don't want physical media. A lot of people who don't understand the reason that the industry is pushing towards digital. One, people, if you look at market trends, people are using less and less and less physical media. The sales of Blu-rays and DVDs have astronomically gone down as streaming services have become the primary platform. You guys remember Redbox? How Redbox was just destroying Blockbuster. And that was 10 years ago when we were still actively using Redbox. That was 10 years ago. That was 2015. But nonetheless, the landscape has changed. Less and less and less people are buying physical media, physical games. It's just going down. But do you have those who are just too blind to see it, or they're just too willfully ignorant to see that? Xbox is just changing their business model. They're adapting with the times. They're still offering you to be able to buy the physical media and the physical hardware, but they are going to do that in conjunction with the digital landscape. So you got the all digital Xbox Series X. You've got a handheld that's going to allow you to stream. And a lot of people are like, Why would anyone want to do remote play or remote streaming or any of this? Because the internet infrastructure, especially if you have Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7, is good enough for you to have next to no latency when you are playing, so long as you got a dedicated hardwire connection. If you're going to stream from your Xbox or your, whatever, however you want to do it, and also if you got a router that supports Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7. Internet now is so good that we can now utilize that level of streaming to a handheld. And more people are streaming to their phones. So why not make a dedicated streaming device? You know how many people said the PlayStation Portal was going to be a failure? And I have it right here. It's been collecting dust because I haven't had a chance to use it in a while. The amount of people that said that this is going to be a failure, all the YouTubers that made these videos swearing up and down that was going to be an absolute failure. And it went on to be one of the most successful things PlayStation has put out as far as hardware. And for months, you couldn't get it. Shout out to PlayStation for sending that over to me and letting me use it. But you couldn't buy one. And these people, all the people that swore up and down that this was a horrible thing, PlayStation didn't know what they were doing, all these armchair analysts. And guess what happened? Fuck them armchair analysts. They put this out, it sold well. Xbox is going to do the same thing. But the difference is, it's going to already have the negative media bias and negative content creator, YouTuber, all the influencer, negative bias to tell you why you shouldn't buy it. But it's still going to do well if you got game, especially if it comes a Game Pass. You don't get nothing with the PlayStation Portal. And now they're now including the capability to just stream games directly to it without need of having the actual PlayStation. So they're doing what Xbox already has let you do. But the only thing is they beat Xbox to the market with a streaming device. If I'm lying, tell me what the lies are. So, yeah, we already know 2027, 2028, we got a new Xbox coming. Probably going to be pushed back to 2030 at this point. But there's a new Xbox coming. We're already halfway into the console generation life. And for y'all who are young, who haven't gone through multiple console, life cycles the way I have, like I said, I'm almost 40. I'm 36. I'm going to be 37 this year. I went through technically when I was old enough to play is when, and old enough to remember, that's when Super Nintendo came out, and that took priority over the NES, and then the NES to the 64, the 64 to the GameCube, GameCube to the Wii to the Wii U. Now, it wasn't until the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and the Wii era where we started getting close to 10-year console life cycles. Before, you used to get 3 to, at a max, 5 years. We look at the Super Nintendo or the original Nintendo. The NES came out in 1985, right? In America, 1985, and it had a good run until 1991. Still had games coming out for it for at least another 3-4 years, but you had 85 to 91, and that was a lot. And that's coming off of the fall of Atari, right, where people didn't trust video games. But that was a good long run. But if you look at the Sega Master System to the Sega Genesis, or even the SG-1000 to the Sega Master System to the Genesis, was roughly 3.5 to 4 years. Sega Genesis came out, 1988? Sega Master System had been out 1985, maybe 84. That was a short window. From the Super Nintendo, from 91 to the 64, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 5 years on average. So 96, the 64, GameCube 2001, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 5 years. GameCube to the Wii U, GameCube to the Wii, even though the Wii was basically just the Wii U with, not the Wii U, it was basically the souped up GameCube for all intents and purposes. 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006. 5 years. Where we're at now, when people are like, who asked for the PlayStation 5 Pro? Who asked for it? You stupid motherfucker. You don't know enough about how this industry works. It ain't about you asking for it. There are market analysts and researchers. There's trends. Just because you don't get it and it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint. So here we are, 5 years, almost. We're at 4.5 going into 5 years of this current console generation. The Xbox One and One Series S and X, as well as the PlayStation 5, dropped in 2020. We've only had 2 variations on the Series S and Series X, and it was the 1 terabyte black edition of the Series S and the white digital edition of the Series X. Hardware wise, nothing internally has changed because it was already super powerful out the gate. But what else happened? PlayStation, PS5, PlayStation Slim, now PlayStation 5 Pro. 2 of them, the launch and the Slim, those have the same internal components with different, which a lot of people don't even know that the PlayStation 5 had a whole bunch of issues at launch, and then they started dropping iterative updates to fix thermals and airflow and all the oscillation and whatnot. A lot of people don't even know that. If you bought the launch PlayStation 5, between the launch of the PlayStation 5, where it was almost impossible to get it if you didn't pre-order it ahead of time or have someone working at GameStop like your boy here, you kind of SOL. So between there and right before the Slim came out, you had a bunch of revised PlayStation 5 models. 3 revisions. But you would not be able to look at it and tell. But they changed it out. And then they made the Slim, which effectively has replaced the old Fat Boy and the original digital model. Then you got the Pro, which is more powerful because what was the issue with the PlayStation 5? It was weak. It's a weak console. Wasn't that much stronger than the PlayStation 4 Pro. But we're almost 5 years into this console market. If we go back to the original timelines, that was the norm for when we put out a new console. So I know I kind of shifted away. I'm on a whole tangent right now, ramble. Just bear with me. But that's where we're at now. That is where we're at now when it comes to these consoles. Now we got from the 360 era to now we get, 7 to almost 10 years of a console life. And keep in mind that because they came out during COVID, it was harder to get consoles, right? You could barely get the PlayStation 5. You could barely get the Xbox Series X or S. You could barely get PC components or anything like that. So what happened is developers had to continue maintaining support for the previous generation, which has always been a thing. That's always been a thing. But more so in this generation, than any other has that been a thing. There are still games for Xbox One and PlayStation 4 being made, which basically hold back on what they can do with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series versions. And a lot of people even say that the Xbox Series S holds back the Xbox Series X. But because you could not buy it and game sales were down, what did they have to do? They had to keep making for the previous generations. Okay. So while we're gonna get a PlayStation 6, that's already we already know that's coming, which the PS5 Pro is a stopgap because think about it. If that PlayStation 5 could barely run Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, then you think it could run Grand Theft Auto 6? No. Or not well. It looked like a greased monkey, kind of like 7 Rebirth did in performance mode. So they had to make a stopgap console to compensate for that weaker that weaker performance. And now, in about 3 to 5 years, we're going to get a new set of consoles. But PlayStation is adopting a lot of what Microsoft is doing. And you're also seeing that games that are exclusive to PlayStation or timed exclusives don't sell that well. So what is Microsoft doing? When they bought Activision Blizzard, they say, hey, Call of Duty is going to come back to the Switch. We're going to put some of our games on Nintendo platforms. We're also going to put some of our games on PlayStation. And a lot of people are like, oh, what's the point? Why? That's a stupid business decision. Why would Xbox do that? Why? That doesn't make any sense. If they do that, they're giving up. No, you dumb fuck. That just means that what they're doing is they're going to get your money however they're going to get it. Think about it. Go back to the Microsoft Office example I gave you earlier. Putting Office on everything, doesn't matter what your hardware is, we're still getting your money. That is a brilliant business strategy. Now it's being applied to Xbox. Now, as I said, as we discussed on Season Gaming Bitcast the other day, check it out if you haven't already, they are going to put, more than likely, Halo Master Chief Collection and Forza on Switch. This Super Switch or Switch 2 is coming out. Makes sense. You're going to get Call of Duty back on Nintendo platforms, which it hasn't been on a Nintendo platform since the Wii U with Black Ops 2. They're going to be raking their money in. Who else is doing that? PlayStation. PlayStation, they copy Xbox and Nintendo all the time. They got games on the Nintendo platform. Lego Horizons. So, wrapping everything up, guys, with this episode. I know we're going closing in on 45 minutes, but the point I'm trying to make to you guys is that it makes sense. If you don't get it, that's fine. You don't have to fucking get it, but it makes sense nonetheless. And Xbox is not dying. They just shifted their business model. Why would you ever assume a company is dying after they bought Activision Blizzard, after they bought all these other studios, after they expanded Xbox Game Studios? Just because it's not doing the thing that you want it, they're not doing what you want them to do. They're not back to the old 360 era, which a lot of people gaming now weren't even gaming at that time to even know what it's like. A lot of people like to parrot talking points. Why would you assume that the company is dying? Why would you not understand that they are shifting to a different business model, a more profitable business model that clearly worked for Microsoft Office, which is being used, which is the standard going across? If it's not working, if Xbox is quote unquote dying or dead, as people are saying, why do you have over 30 million people signed up to Xbox Game Pass? Explain that. Game Pass, while you may not own all the stuff, while they do rotate out titles left and right, explain to me why PlayStation Plus now has different tiers of PlayStation Plus that are pretty much mirroring Xbox Game Pass and also offering the same functionality as Game Pass. But y'all don't complain about that. It's all about the narratives, people. So Xbox is fine. They're not going anywhere. They're just doing a different business strategy. That's all it is. So all that being said, people, hopefully this answered a lot of your questions you may have had as to what's going on with Xbox and understanding that they are just doing a different business strategy right now. If you watched or listened to this podcast and you still don't get it, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Move on about your life. If it ain't for you, it ain't for you. But for clearly millions of people around the world, it's for them. So all that being said, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode of Decked Up, a Gaming Talk podcast. Hopefully you like the difference layout. If you guys really like how I recorded this, which I just recorded this with OBS on my Mac, my MacBook Air M3 with my wireless lav mic. If you like this style, I can do this from now on. I couldn't sit and do this just because of how much my lower back is hurting from those workouts I was doing. But all that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, leave a comment. If you're listening on Spotify, which is the sponsor of our show, hey, leave a comment. Make a move, G. Let me know. And we also got Patreon too. If y'all want exclusive content, head on over to Patreon, become a Patreon supporter, or support the show via Spotify, because we have subscriptions over on Spotify as well, and whatever platform you're listening to. All that being said, I'm signing out. Hopefully y'all guys have a blessed and aloha rest of your day, and I'll see y'all later on. Okay? Peace out, and a hui ho.